day for 1 year. Y'all want to hear the last poem I wrote for her? It went like this. I know my honey cares for me. See, I asked her for $1 and she gave me. And I've dated a lot of girls in my life, but you one day gonna be my wife. I know my sister's love is true. See, I told my mama and she told hers. And I've dated a lot of girls in my life, but you one day gonna be my wife. I know my baby's heart is mine. She tells me all the time, Why? What took y'all so long? I've dated a lot of girls in my life, but you one day gonna be my wife. My baby's been asking how I feel. Wants to know what my feelings feel, so I can see the kiss her on her lips. Politely place my hand on her. Whisper these words in her. I hope she doesn't get too excited to hear that I dated a lot of girls in my life. But you one day gonna be my wife. And guess what? She married me. I read like 14 books of poetry, and one day I was reading poetry in a place called New York, and this woman came up to me and she said, Kwame, I love your poetry. I work for a publishing company. If you ever thought about writing a book for young people, I would publish it. And I was like, yes, I am going to write it. So I went back home to Virginia where I lived, and I wrote this book, and it was amazing. And it was 50 pages long. And I had spent every day during the summer for 5 hours in my same favorite writing spot. It's a place you may have heard of. It's called Panera Bread. And I sat at Panera Bread every day and I ordered the same thing, mac and cheese. And I drank lemonade with no. And I sat there and I finished this book and I sent it back to this woman who worked for this publishing company. I said, please, will you publish it? And she sent me a note, and the note said the following. Dear Kwame, thank you so much for writing this book. Unfortunately, it's not that good. And so we aren't going to publish it. So I went back to Panera and I rewrote the book, and now the book was 100 pages long, and it was really good, y'all. It was a novel, but the novel was told in poems. If there was anything I knew poetry like the back of my hand. And so I sent it back to this publisher, and this time she sent a note that said the following. Dear Kwame, thank you so much for rewriting your book. Unfortunately, it's still not that good. And so we aren't going to publish it. So I went back to Panera and I rewrote it one more time. Now this is 200 pages long. It was about two brothers and a twin, and they played basketball. And you can tell they were twins, and you can tell them apart because one brother had long locks and the other brother had no hair. And one day the brother with no hair decides he's going to bet his brother if he makes the last shot in the game, he gets to cut off all his brothers. And this is how his brother responds. If my hair were a tree, I'd climb it. I'd kneel down beneath and enshrine it. I'd treat it like gold and then mine it. Each day before school, I unwind it. And right before games, I entwine it. These locks on my head, I designed it. And one last thing, if you don't mind it, that bet you just made, I decline it. I felt like it was the best book I had ever written. So I sent it back to this publisher I met in New York, and she sent me a note, and this time the note said, Dear Kwame, thank you so much for submitting your book to us. Unfortunately, you don't need to keep sending it. It's just never going to work. Then I was like, maybe the book is no good, but I'm going to try it one more time. And I rewrote it one more time, and now the book was 238 pages. And it was the best book I could ever write. And I sent it to 18 publishers around the United States. And I got 18 emails, and all the emails said the following. Dear Kwame, thank you so much for writing this important book. Unfortunately, none of us are going to publish it. Because you've written a book about basketball and girls don't like sports stories. Since you've written a book about basketball, you use poetry to tell the story, and boys don't like poems. And so your book will never sell. And so then I was like, okay, the book is probably no good, Kwame. And so that night, I gave up. I said, it's never going to work. I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I said, Kwame, wait a minute. You can't give up. You can't allow other people's no's to define who you are. You got to say yes to yourself. So, let me ask you this. If 20 plus publishers are telling me no, my book is no good, and I don't want it to be published, how do I say yes to myself? Raise your hand if you think you know the answer. Yes. Become a publisher. Boom. And I decided I was going to publish the book myself. And a week later, I get an email. And the email said the following. Dear Kwame, my name is Margaret Raymond. I work for a company called Houghton Mifflin Harcourt in Boston, Massachusetts. I read your novel. I loved your novel. Everybody on my team loved it. And we'd be honored to publish your book. So now the book is about to get published. A year later, it comes out. Librarians and teachers don't really pick it up because it's got a boy playing basketball on the cover, and the librarian and teacher's like, maybe, But then a funny thing happens. Boys start reading the book. In fact, in a place called Dallas, Texas, there's a teacher who posts on Twitter that she has to lock up her 11 copies of my book because the boys are stealing it from the library, reading it, and then selling the books to girls to read. And I was like, how cool is that? That's not cool. That's cool! And so I flew down to Dallas, Texas, and I took 150 copies of the book, and I gave it to every 7th grader in the school. And the kids were like, Mr. Alexander, can you read to us from the book? And I was like, a quick shoulder shake, a slick eye fake. Number 28 is way past late. He's reading me like a book, but I turn the page and watch him look, which can only mean I got him shook. His feet are the bank, and I'm the crook. Breaking, take him to the left. Now it's took. Number 14 joins in. Now he's on the. I got 2 in my kitchen. I'm fixing 2. Prepping my meal, ready for glass. Nobody expecting guilty to pass. I see Bonnie under the hoop, so I serve him up my alley. And so I'm traveling all around the world reading from this book, and all of a sudden, everybody's reading it, and librarians and teachers like, this is the best book ever. It's like, yeah, the students have inspired their teachers. And then a year passed. And it's February the 2nd.
Oh no.
And I'm sitting in my basement.
Oh no.
And it's midnight.
Oh no.
And everybody in my house is asleep except me. And then I get hungry, so I make some pancakes. And then I get thirsty, so I drink a root beer. And then about 3 a.m., I watch reruns of my favorite show, The Walking Dead. And then about 5 a.m., I listen to some jazz music. And then about 6 a.m., I go upstairs, and I finally get to bed. And at 7:16 a.m., my phone rings and wakes me up. And I look at the phone, and it says, no caller ID. And I'm like, who's calling me this early? So I answer the phone. Hello? All right, before I continue, I got to ask y'all a question. Have y'all ever heard of the Oscar or the Grammy Awards? Yes. There's this award. It's like the Oscars or the Grammys, but it's for the best children's book in America. It's called the
Newberry.
It's called the Newberry. What's it called?
Newberry.
Say it like you mean it.
Newberry.
The guy on the call says, Mr. Alexander, I'm calling from the Newberry Committee. And I say, oh, snap. And he says, I'm calling to tell you that your novel, The Crossover, is, and all I can think is, this is probably going to be a really good call. And he says, I'm calling to tell you that your novel, The Crossover, is, and all I can think is, would I be getting this call if I had given up after the first no? Or the 4th? Or the 11th? Or the 20th? And so I'm calling to tell you that your novel, The Crossover, is the winner of the Newbery Medal for the most distinguished contribution to American literature for children. And my entire life changes in that moment. And here's what I learned. I learned that the no's are a part of life. We're all going to be told no at some point. Raise your hand if you've ever been told no. Keep it up if you like being told no. about all the no's is once the no's come to your house and they eat all your food and they drink all your drink and they're tired and they go home, what's left? And how many yeses do you need? You just need one, but you got to remember to say yes to yourself. You got to remember this. If you don't remember anything else, you got to remember this. On the court and in your life. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, switch. Let's say it together. 3 misses and a switch. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss.
Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss.
What does that mean? Somebody help me out. Yes, stand up. What does it mean? No matter how much you try, eventually you're going to make it. But if you stop trying, what's never going to happen? You're not going to make it. That's how I ended up here today. That's how I ended up writing 37 books. That's how I ended up producing a TV show called The Crossover. It's going to be on Disney Channel on April the 4th and Disney Plus on April the 5th. And I produced it with a friend. He plays basketball. You may have heard of him. I'm just going to whisper it. His name is LeBron James. So, one of my favorite parts of these presentations is to do this thing I call Q&A, where you all get to ask me questions and I give answers. So, I think probably I'm going to take 4.5 questions. Yeah. In the back, in the glasses, yes. Say again? Is he in the show? He produced the show with me. Yes, stand up. Ooh, my favorite book I've written. Let me see if I have it over here.
Over there.
Oh. All right. Here's one of my favorite books. Sit down and stand. Here's one of my favorite books, y'all. Unfortunately, I brought the German edition. But I'm going to try to translate it for you. So, I have been on a 12-city tour with the illustrator of An American Story. What's the title of the book? The illustrator's name is Dare Coulter. Everybody turn to your back and say, "What's up, Dare?" What's up, Dare? Yeah. So, I have been on a 12-city tour with Dare. We started in Orlando, Florida. Today is the last day. It is a wrap. I am going to the spa tomorrow. Everybody turn around and say, "What's up, Fees?" What's up, Fees? All right. Now, I'm going to read you all my favorite book. I'm going to try to translate it in German until I can't translate it anymore. We got 2 teams. We got Team Fees and Team Kwame. When I point to you, repeat after me. Yeah. Yeah. That was horrible. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Surf's up, dude. Surf's up, dude. Not yet, bro. Not yet, bro. You'd rather read a book than go to the beach? You'd rather read a book than go to the beach? Shh, I'm almost done. Almost done. Books are boring. Books are boring. Books are boring. Books are boring. Dude, books are fascinating, especially this one. This is about a man looking for a whale. Well, my mother and my father were writers. Put your hands down. My mother and my father were writers. My father used to make me read the dictionary. I hated that. My mother used to read me a lot of poems and sing me songs. And I think probably I I decided I was going to be a writer because I wanted to help young people like me imagine a better world. I felt like words could transform you. Like they can make you understand the world and your place in it. And then the other thing that made me start writing poetry is because I started liking girls. And I wanted to write poems for them. True story. All right, yes. Is my show going to be on Disney Channel or Disney Plus? Oh, on April the 4th, it's going to be on Disney Channel. On April the 5th? Disney Plus. What's the name of it? There you go. Next question. Yes. With the crossover, is there any alternate ending I could have done? So here's the deal. The first time I wrote the crossover, the ending was completely the opposite of what it is now. But then I went home and I fell asleep and I had a dream, and in the dream, two boys came to me and they were like, no, Kwame, you got to change the ending. And I was like, no. And then the next day I went to bed again and the father came to me in the dream and said, I'm sorry, Kwame, but this is how your story's got to end. The thing about it is when you're writing and the writing is real good, the characters become a part of your life. They move into your head. And so I went to Dare Coulter and I rewrote the ending and I was crying. And people were coming over to me, they were like, dude, there's something wrong with the mac and cheese. Yes. Have you ever done collaboration with other authors? Yes, I do it all the time. In fact, on the count of 3, I want y'all to put your hands together and show some love. 1, 2, 3. Y'all have got to check out these boots. What? What? When I say cross, you say over. Cross, cross, cross. You say listen, you say up. Listen, listen. So, Dare and I wrote and illustrated a book called An American Story. It's a book that asks the following question. How do you tell a story that starts in Africa and ends in horror? An unbelievable story about evil plans and big guns hiding in the night, waiting. While the girls and the boys finish their chores, play games, listen to old tales of trickster spiders and talking drums, waiting. For the women to sing everyone to sleep and the men to dream of tomorrow, waiting. To steal them away from their lives and sell them in America. What's this book about? It's about slavery. Interesting. How do you tell a story about sly men from cold places scheming and laughing on tall ships while people shackled below, cramped in small, hot spaces, cry and sometimes die? How do you tell a story of struggle and sacrifice about bold men and women jumping into the sea, into the jaws of sharks? Because, okay, why would they jump into the sea? Raise your hand. Yes. Yes. Because they don't want to become slaves. Yes. I think you're on it. And yeah, they took over the ship and many of them jumped off. Yes? The Americans made them do it. Yes? Why did they jump off the ship? They'd rather die than live a life in bondage. Raise your hand if you think you would jump off of a ship into the sea, into the jaws of sharks. What kind of person do you have to be to jump? Give me one word answer. B-O-L-D. Say it. B-R-A-V-E. Say it. So when you ask me have I ever collaborated, I wrote a book that I felt was pretty good, but then I got teamed up with an illustrator who's also a sculpturist. These are sculptures, you all. And you know who did those? Dare, why don't you tell them about your work in these sculptures?
All right, so hi everybody. I'm an artist, muralist, illustrator, sculptor, and typically when you're working on this book, most people are not working with sculptures, but sculpture is my passion. It's the thing that I love. It's the thing that I feel like I've got to do for the rest of my life. So I knew that I had to figure out how to get sculptures in here somehow. I just didn't know what the path would be to it.
So let me ask you this. How did she get the sculptures in the book? Who thinks they know? Yes. She took pictures of them. Excellent. Go on.
So when I made the pictures, I had to figure out what the sculptures meant. And for me, the process came down to, okay, these are the moments that are really heavy, really important, most special, right? So the pictures got taken. We went up to Brooklyn to the studio of a friend named Howard Wayne. He's an amazing photographer, and he took the pictures, and then I had the pictures back, and I seamed them in so that they felt like one image, right? So over the course of figuring out, what the pages are going to be, you start with thumbnails, and then you say, okay, this is where the stuff is going to go, and then I started the work.
Next question. Yes. Yes. My best-selling book. My best-selling book has sold 4 million copies. It's a book called... Yes. How old was I when I wrote my first book? 22. Yes. What book did I have the most fun writing? This book was the hardest book I ever wrote. The second hardest book I ever wrote was a book called The Door of No Return, which is about a boy who has a crush on a girl, and he's got a cousin who's a bully who likes the same girl, and his cousin beats him at everything, at racing and wrestling, but he's a good swimmer. So he challenges his cousin to a swim-off, and he goes to the river every day practicing, and he thinks if he beats his cousin, he's going to win his pride back and win the heart of a girl. But he goes to the river the night before the big swim-off, even though he's been told by the elders in his community to stay out of the water at night because the river is cursed. And he's in the water, and he's swimming fast, and he's kicking like a fish, and he comes out of the water, and I can't tell you what happens. But I can tell you this, what happens changes his life and changes history and brings him face to face with a door of the hardest book I ever wrote. The easiest and the most fun book? Wow, that's tough. Probably, Crossover took 6 years to write. 5 hours a day, I think the easiest book I ever wrote was probably a book called The Undefeated. You have the book. You've seen it. Wow. So this book took me an hour to write.
What?
An hour. I was in a place called Nashville, Tennessee. I was standing outside of a store called Banana. Yeah, my friend was shopping, and my daughter had just been born, and I wanted to write her, and I think Barack Obama had just been elected, and I wanted to write my daughter a poem about how we came from Africans being stolen from our homeland to having a president who's from Africa, who's of African ancestry, and so I wrote this poem in an hour. Next question. Yes. Where did I learn German? In Germany. I did not learn German. Fortunately, I know my books because I wrote them, so I memorized them. But, yeah, good question. You caught me. Yes. Dare, what's your favorite book?
American Story. I dig it.
What's your favorite book that you didn't illustrate?
Oh, that I didn't illustrate? Oh, God. I wrote a couple. I feel like The House That Swarmed You by Nancy Farmer was my favorite when I was a kid, and I love it still. It's amazing. And then there are a couple others, but that was my first list. A book called Adverts by Nancy.
My favorite book that I didn't write, I like all the Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus books. What else do I like? There's a book called The Temple of My Familia by a writer named Alice Walker, which I love. And I love a bunch of poems by Langston Hughes, Nikki Giovanni, Dr. Oh, my favorite book when I was So the question was, in the crossover, why didn't I put a part where, as a reader, you kind of knew where Josh was coming from, and it wasn't just about JB being mad? That's a great question. Think I should have done that?
Rewrite it again.
Well, maybe I'll get a chance to write that wrong in the TV series. Good question. Yes, in the back, in the pig. How many books have I published? 37. Hey, Dare, how many books have you published? 6 books. Boom. Yes, in the pig. How many languages do I speak? Anybody know Swahili? Let's count to 10 in Swahili. Moja. Ili. Tatu. Why y'all saying it so low? Speak up. I know Swahili. I know Spanish. I know English. I don't know Chinese. Wow, look at that. Is Konnichiwa Chinese? What about Shishi? I love it. That's brilliant. Next question. Yes, in the very back. Yeah. My favorite fast food restaurant? I do not eat fast food. I only eat slow food. Yes. Say again. When I was 7, my favorite book when I was 7 was probably a book called Spin a Soft Black Song by Nick Giovanni. Yes. All right, so for breakfast this morning, we went to this restaurant and we had breakfast, and it was pretty cool. Y'all want to know the name of it? Yeah. See if y'all know it. It's called what is it, IHOP? What are you talking about? It's called the Cozy Corner. Remember that? That's where we went. Yes. Our favorite TV show? I don't watch TV. My favorite. My favorite
Right on
TV
time.
show. What's your favorite TV